Hello, best staff in the world. I was looking up our work on teacher clarity, and I thought, wow, there aren't many videos on teacher clarity that really get down to the nitty gritty on some of the details of teacher clarity. And in walking around our classrooms, I noticed we have a lot of clarity on what we're learning. So students can say, I'm learning about George Washington, I'm learning to write, I'm learning to create an argument, I'm learning to add fractions. But where it gets a little more murky is the why they're learning it. And in some classrooms I heard, we are learning this to communicate better with others. That's like a good why, right? But what I wanted to bring up, just to be clear and kind of show what I think we're getting at with teacher clarity and the why question, is this. Why is talking about the relevance of the work that you're doing, the relevance of the task and the relevance of the concepts and skills. And when you look at rigor, relevance gets into level 3 and 4 on the depth of knowledge, which is really cool because once you start building in more, the more relevant you create something, the more rigorous it can become because you can ask bigger questions about it. So that being said, I'm going to give you a couple examples of relevance. And I also put a handout from a website in your boxes. And I've attached it to an email, but I'm going to put a handout right now for you. I'm going to give you a couple of very clear, hopefully clear examples of how we can use relevance to answer the why question. However, here's the important part. Your students will only answer that it's relevant if you explicitly tell them why it's relevant. So you have to, as a team, come up with the why yourselves that you're going to communicate to your kids. I'm going to use math here as an example, and here's why I'm using math. To me, a lot of the other subject areas, for instance, reading and writing and science and social science, have built-in relevance. Why is the water cycle relevant? Well, because it shows us what we can expect when it rains and when it gets hot and what goes on. Why is it relevant that we learn to create an argument? Well, now you know how to discuss things with people in a way that is understandable and clear, right? But when it gets to math, it's hard to make relevance out of some of the more complex math, fractions and even like some of the equations that they're learning and some of the different formulas they learn in math. It's hard to make it relevant because, well, let me give an example. One of the biggest responses I get in math of why they're learning something in math is, we are learning it because it's on the test, or we're learning it because we need it next year in math. And while that is true and possibly relevant to them, it's almost like a never-ending loop. They're always going to need it for next year until they graduate high school, and then it won't be relevant anymore. So if we don't start building relevance at a young age that's beyond the school system, I think that we're going to create kids going into the high schools that are not looking for true relevance, and they're just looking to get to the next level of math until they're done. And then they quit doing math once they get to college, like I did. Now, how do we look at this? I'm going to give you some examples. In fractions, for instance, they need it for shopping. Percentages, 50% off, half off, a quarter off. I've seen different, also putting together a Christmas list or a birthday list or some sort of gift list. They need to divide up the amount of money they have for that. For meal prep, for cooking, for sports statistics, we need fractions, and those are all things that if you use your creative brains or look up some more research on the internet, you could find how sports statistics use fractions and how cooking uses fractions in a way that you can convey to your students and possibly create some more relevant tasks for them. And then another piece we look at is a more complex math piece, like quadratic equation or parabolas or all these other concepts that are a little bit more abstract. I know in elementary school, we're just getting close to the abstract concepts, but you see things like dividing up different variables or, some of the math they're doing now with the Common Core is close to like a calculus light. So the complex math, some of the relevance could be in building something, architecture, science and engineering, and you could find more direct connections just by a quick browse on the internet, figuring out problems or making charts to convey information to people, communicating ideas through numbers using charts, predicting and finding patterns in things. So that's where the complex math, where they can plug in numbers into things, you could find a relevance based on problem solving. This will help you solve problems such as ... Now again, you're going to have a handout in your box. You're going to have an email of a handout, and I'm here for you as well. Hopefully, as we work out this mystery of teacher clarity, the why will become more and more clear for us as we keep experimenting and keep moving forward in this continuous improvement. Thank you. Best school in the entire world.